Tonight, a lobby group attacks Port Augusta Council, saying it hasn't done its bit to maintain the bridges. And a big clean-up under the Port Lincoln jetty, picking up rubbish from beneath the waves.
This is Southern Cross News with Tim Hatfield.
Good evening, but first tonight, Port Lincoln's Mayor Bruce Green says there's still no answers as to why backup generators failed during last year's September blackout. Mayor Green is adamant there's been no assurances made by power company ENGIE if Port Lincoln has any backup power after the Australian energy market operator today predicted future blackouts.
Until today, Port Lincoln's power issues had still been unresolved.
We still don't know whether 3 out of 3 of those generators, those peaking generators, are working or none of them are working.
But this afternoon, power company ENGIE released its first public comment. In a statement received by Southern Cross News, ENGIE says they responded to Mayor Green's letter on the 2nd of November, but for the first time today confirmed all Port Lincoln generating units continue to be available, something Mr Green says is vital.
We are right on the limit of our power supply down here. We rely on the peaking plant in the times of failure or in the times when demand exceeds supply. We need the local generator to be operating to keep the lights on.
The power crisis in South Australia is reaching a critical level. Today, the Australian energy market operator released documents finding that insufficient power levels over the next 2 years will result in blackouts. The newly proposed renewable energy plan by the state government has also done little to alleviate fears here on the EP, with questions being asked as to why local clean energy can't be used.
I think it's a failure of the regulator to ensure that those renewables weren't able to be plugged into the grid or plugged in a way that satisfies local demand.
The final report for the statewide blackout will be released tomorrow, but for now the Mayor and the community are looking for security to avoid once again being left in the dark.
It would be great to have that reassurance, to know that if our one single line that supplies Port Lincoln goes down, that we then have some backup power.
Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
The new 25km/h speed limit on Port Augusta's Joy-Baluke Bridge is damaging a national freight route, according to a transport industry lobby group. And the group is pointing the finger directly at the council for not maintaining the Great Western Bridge.
Port Augusta Council took over ownership of the Great Western Bridge in the late 70s, and while it has spent money on it since, it had no idea of the extent of the damage until a recent inspection.
Quite frankly, we shouldn't have had to have found this out now. This should have been well documented and well planned right since 1978.
The South Australian Freight Council is now slamming the Port Augusta Council for letting an asset disintegrate.
They may well not have management plans for other assets. It's raising serious questions about the management of infrastructure in the council area that need to be answered.
The Transport Industry Lobby Group says with the Great Western Bridge out of action, the 25km speed limit on the Joy-Baluke Bridge is damaging the vital trucking corridor.
Moving at those speeds increases fuel costs. It also impacts on drivers' rest breaks and driving costs.
It's not a council decision to slow the highway down. That is a state government decision. They made that after a request from South Australian Police for safety concerns.
Port Augusta Council could fix the abutments at either end of the Great Western Bridge for a short-term solution, but with a growing asset base, it needs to decide whether that's the best use of ratepayers' money.
You've got to remember also, in the current climate, we are a regional council with a diminishing rate base, so there are factors outside of our control.
The Transport Department will be assessing the Joy-Baluke Bridge this week to determine if the 25km speed limit should stay or go. Lauren Rose, Southern Cross News.
A Jamestown man has allegedly set fire to his own car and then reported it stolen in order to claim insurance on the vehicle. The CFS reported to a deliberately lit car fire last week in Jamestown before a report to police that the car had been stolen. After further investigations, the owner of the car, a 65-year-old local man, was reported for arson and creating a false police report. He'll appear in court at a later date. Whyala's RSPCA shelter will expand its emergency care after receiving a grant from the state government to build new kennels. The organisation has welcomed the funding, saying the need for emergency care for family pets continues to grow.
For some, they're family, and pets sometimes need to be looked after by someone else in an emergency. The Whyalla RSPCA shelter provides that care, and in recent years has been struggling to meet demand.
We take about 1,400 dogs through the shelter, and quite a proportion of those will be directly from emergency boarding, so it would vary from people who might have to go to hospital.
They'll soon add 9 new kennels and 2 exercise areas after securing $35,000 in state government funding. The money was secured through the Fund My Idea initiative, which saw locals vote for the project they thought was most deserving. The local MP says the project has tugged at the heartstrings of locals.
The community thought that was a good idea, so it was the community that came out and backed this particular idea.
Mr. Carolyn says the new kennels will help ensure no pet is left behind in an emergency. He says staff will now be able to provide some extra TLC.
We need additional space so we can support the animals, so we just saw this is a great opportunity for us to be able to build more shelters so we can provide additional support for those who are in crisis.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Cummins police arrested a Port Lincoln man in Coffin Bay on Saturday night after he failed a breath test. The 34-year-old driver was stopped just before 10 p.m. and returned a blood alcohol reading of 0.08. The man was charged with drink driving and issued a 6-month loss of licence and summoned to appear in the Port Lincoln Magistrates Court. Well, stay with us. Still to come in tonight's local news, the big clean-up under Port Lincoln's jetty, picking up the rubbish from beneath the waves. That's next. Welcome back. The Port Lincoln jetty received its yearly clean-up over the weekend, with divers across the region assisting with the removal of rubbish and some undesirable goods. The initiative, spearheaded by the local dive school and the SES, removed a ton of debris, resulting in the site to a safe place for the community to use.
A tip beneath the tide. All this junk had made its way underneath the town's jetty.
We've got a beautiful city, and just because we keep topside clean, we've got to keep the bottom side clean as well.
The annual jetty clean-up, organised by local diving instructor Leo Stewart, began after he noticed significant debris being discarded underneath the jetty.
There's a lot down there anyway that's been uncovered, I know I've already started to bring it up now. I saw a couple of tyres come up already, and they're probably 70 years old.
The jetty, which also doubles as a swimming area for kids and is popular amongst local anglers, has increasingly become the burial site for dangerous objects, creating a hazardous situation.
I've heard there's fish hooks and knives and that underneath the jetty, so if we can get them out, it's a good and nice safe environment for everyone.
The State Emergency Service also lent a hand, returning the iconic landmark back to full health.
It's good helping out the community because obviously a lot of people come down here to the jetty, fishing, swimming, and helps it make a cleaner and safer place.
Locals fed up with litterers are increasingly on the lookout and police are keeping watch. But as for finding treasure, divers will have to keep searching.
I think very minimal. I think nice thought, but I think that's very minimal.
Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
Hundreds of New South Wales Emergency Services personnel have taken part in a simulated disaster outside Broken Hill to push their response capabilities to the limit. Agencies were sent 200 kilometres north of the Silver City to a barren highway where there had been a pretend head-on collision between a tourist bus and a stock truck. The exercise took 9 months to plan and involved crews from the Defence Force, the SES, New South Wales Ambulance and the police, responding to 27 casualties and a truck full of dead sheep. The simulation was deemed a huge success, but brought home the stark reality that on the country's highways, such a crash is not outside the realms of possibility. The Salvation Army is reaching out to the people of Port Augusta in more ways than ever before by turning the entire Carlton Plaza building into a hub for help. Taking over the space has allowed the charity to create a brand new community drop-in centre to offer a safe place for anyone, anytime.
Port Augusta has a new go-to spot for a cuppa and a chat.
There's people living in our community that might be stuck at home for various reasons, be feeling isolated, So this is a great place that they can come to connect with other people and start to build those relationships up.
There's a program full of arts and crafts activities happening at the Salvation Army's Community Centre, or people can simply come in to do their own thing or use the public computers. The facility is being funded by the Salvo's new furniture store, an extension of its thrift store only made possible by having the whole block.
It's really exciting that we've been lucky enough to be able to purchase the rest of the building here, and we just want to have a hub where people can come along and walk through any different door, but all point to the one place.
The pharmacy is staying in Carlton Plaza, and the Salvos have rented space to a hairdresser for a one-stop help shop.
The dream I have is to see somebody wanting a job interview and they can come in here and have their hair done at the hairdresser that rents off us. We can provide with clothes, we can empower them.
The community centre also works with local service providers that can make referrals to people in need. Its official opening is on Thursday. There'll be a free barbecue from 11 to 1.
We invite all members of the community to come along and be a part of this and own the centre. This is their centre. We want them to feel like they own it and they belong here.
Lauren Rose, Southern Cross News.
The Broken Hill art community is encouraging locals to enter an art competition with a peculiar twist. Locals are being asked to turn their trash into artistic treasure and challenge their perception about our rubbish.
One man's trash is another artist's treasure.
So the Waste to Art competition is an annual competition that's run by Net Waste to encourage and bring awareness to the amount of waste that we produce each year.
Waste to Art showcases creative works made from reused and recyclable waste materials. Last year's theme was tyres. This year it's soft plastics and plastic bags.
There's a huge amount of plastic bags done each year, so it's to look at different ways to recycle and create some sort of fantastic artwork, sculptural work or two-piece work out of soft plastics.
The competition is open to anybody, from artists to school students.
There's a primary school category, a high school category, an open category, a community category and a category for large works like buildings and large sculptures and things like that.
Entry forms are available at West Darling Arts or the Geo Centre, or can be downloaded from the Net Waste website. Entries close on the 10th of May.
It gets people thinking about different ways and different uses for things that you would normally throw out. So it's to kind of encourage a shift in attitude towards recycling and also create new artworks.
Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
Well, stay with us when we return after the break. Grand final action in Port Pirie as Solly North takes an upset victory. That's next. Welcome back. The 23rd Annual Variety 4-Wheel Drive Challenge kicked off in Port Pirie for the first time over the weekend. 55 vehicles will make their way through Flinders Ranges, raising money for children in need.
Setting off for a 7-day adventure in the Flinders Ranges.
This morning is quite easy, I would suggest, but this afternoon gets quite difficult. So we're easing the entrance into it slowly.
A team of 120 people packed their 4-wheel drives at Solomon Town Beach on Saturday, but not before they helped a family in need.
We had a bad year last year, just with a lot of things, and when it was time for him to change his script, we just couldn't afford to pay for his glasses. They would have to wait for a couple of months.
Little David received a new pair of much-needed glasses thanks to the work of Variety. Everyday activities are now much easier for him.
Thank you, Variety.
The team aimed high with their fundraising efforts. At the weekend, they had raised over $500,000.
Every dollar counts and every dollar makes a difference to the children across South Australia, and we just love being able to help those kids in the regional areas.
The team travelled north through the Flinders Ranges and will eventually travel back south to finish in the Barossa Valley. Along the way, handing out much-needed help to young children.
To know that you're having a little bit of an impact and you're being able to help change lives, meeting the families is just awesome.
Keziah Sullivan, Southern Cross News.
2 Whyalla men are set to complete a lap of Australia to help give Whyalla's rising sports stars a chance to live their dreams. The long drive aims to raise $30,000 for junior sport.
Gary Anderson and David Dunbar love this sport and have done so since they were children. They now want to help support Whyalla's next generation of talent and will do a lap of Australia to raise money for local sport.
The aim is for the money to go to associations, not to any individual clubs.
anything we can do, whether it be buy match balls for an association or Guernseys to go away with, might make the cost a bit easier for the parents.
The long drive will leave Whyalla in November, doing a lap of Australia along the 15,000-kilometre National Highway 1 in 15 days. Making it tougher, they'll do it in a 30-year-old station wagon, but they're confident they'll see it through.
I hope she holds up. There's some pretty average roads out there, and being November, it's going to be hot, so hopefully the aircon holds up.
Whyalla Sports have struggled for funds, with the local economic climate making it difficult to attract sponsorship. Gary says they just want to ensure kids get the same opportunities they've been lucky to get.
I think the junior sports is where the future of Whyalla is, and to get them involved and get more kids out and involved in the sports in the town is what we want to do.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
North Whyalla's Matt Quist has capped off an outstanding individual season, winning the A-grade Cricketer of the Year on Friday. It was a big night for the all-rounder, who also won Champion Cricketer and was named in the Team of the Year. Quist guided North to their second consecutive grand final and was a key feature in their 2020 competition win. He averaged 50 with the bat, including a century earlier in the year against Central Whyalla and 2 half-centuries. He was also handy with the ball, taking 14 wickets at just under 15. Well, Wandera and Solly North went head-to-head for the A-grade premiership in Port Pirie on the weekend. It was a close match, which put spectators on the edge of their seats. Keziah Sullivan joins us now with the match report. Kez, the game really went down to the dying minutes.
It did, Tim. All the action was left till the end of the game. It quite possibly could have went either way. Solly North needed just under 10 runs to win, and Wandera needed just 1 wicket. But in the end, it was the underdogs who pulled through. Solly North took the flag. The game started a bit slower though. Wandera won the toss and went in for the bat, but nothing was getting past Solly's bowlers. The top order dropped quickly and it was up to the bottom order to make a mark. Wandera's captain Mark Condon wasn't about to let the game slip through his fingers, hitting a handy 38 runs. They finished up on 112 and it was time for Solly to go in for the chase.
One of those targets where you don't want to get bogged down chasing, you sort of want to bat with good intent, try and get some runs. We knew one decent partnership of 50 plus was probably going to get us in the game.
It wasn't an ideal start for Solly though. They were sitting on 4 for 16. But in came a whirlwind of a partnership. Ashley Johnson and Sam McIntyre made a strong 60-odd runs to put the team back in the race. From then on in, it was touch and go. Solly North needed just a handful of runs, while Wandera just 1 wicket. But they didn't make it, handing the game over to Solly North, the team celebrating their first premiership.
I've played against Wandera for long enough now to know that you're never quite home until you get that last runs.
Meanwhile, over in Port Lincoln, Southern Air cruised through to the grand final with a win over Charlton, which means they will now face off with Tasman in the big dance. So, Tim, quite possibly one of the closest grand finals Port Pirie cricket has seen in a long time. This weekend, Port Lincoln teams will battle it out for the last grand final of the season.
Good stuff, thanks Kez, and of course we'll have a match preview of the Port Lincoln Grand Final later in the week. Well, stay with us. After the break we'll have a look at how the local weather is panning out. Welcome back. Turning to the weather now. Fine and sunny to kick off the week today, getting to 26 in Port Augusta and 25 in Whyalla. Port Lincoln 23, Port Pirie on 26 degrees and a warm and windy 38 in Broken Hill, however. On the national satellite, a burst of clear skies for the region as that cloud band moves off to the east. Out on the Gulf waters, the winds to 15 knots and westerly, seas below a metre to the south. Sun rises just before 7:30. So looking at tomorrow, pretty fine and sunny, 27 the top in Port Augusta and 28 in Port Pirie, Whyalla on 25, 24 in Port Lincoln, Broken Hill with 28. Then we could see some midweek showers heading for 24 in Port Lincoln on Wednesday and 29 on Thursday, 24 then 18 degrees in Cleve, Woodner 26 degrees midweek then fining up. Whyalla with showers and 26 then 20 this week, Port Augusta fine however 28 then 21, Kadina with showers and 26 then fine to wrap up the week. Port Pirie showers and 27 for Wednesday, then 21 for Thursday, a wet 24, then a fine 19 in Clare, Broken Hill sunny and 33 on Wednesday and then down to 21 for Thursday. And that is the local news for this evening. Don't forget, you can stay up to date with us anytime on Facebook and on Twitter. You can also drop us an email. We'll see you back here tomorrow night from 6:30. I'm Tim Hatfield from the team here at Southern Cross News. Enjoy your evening. Good night.